Now, as we speak today, October 10, 2025, there are massive protests sweeping Chicago, Illinois. A lot of people are out protesting, and they're protesting Donald Trump and the MAGA regime. Now, as we all know, military has occupied the streets of a lot of different cities across the United States ever since the Trump regime took over the United States federal government. And they're mainly targeting cities and blue states. They were in California. Um, they've moved on now, and they're currently in Chicago. And there are talks, and there's a lot of things happening also in Portland, Oregon. Okay, so these protests are local people from those parts of the world, Chicago, and you recently saw what happened when the ICE raids went to the buildings, dragged people out of their beds, and stuff like that. So these protests are stemming from a lot of what people say is the misuse of the military, okay, to attack, drag, and push back on local population, the local American population. Now, there's so many developments and it's happening so fast that it's very difficult to keep up with what MAGA is doing constantly. But I would strongly suggest that you keep up as best as you can because little things that they do will slip through the crack and you will not realize and it will impact your life significantly. Now, if you're out there protesting, be careful, do it safely, do it peacefully. You get what I'm saying? Because we all know that yes, you could protest, but you got to be careful because protests have a nature and way of people getting hurt at times. So for all the people who are out there protesting, be careful. But this is something that's very important to the people who are participating, and it speaks to your First Amendment, which is your freedom of speech in the United States, and it's something that you should exercise. Okay, I've never been a person that goes to protests, but since this year, I started to go to protests against MAGA and Donald Trump's regime-like government. Okay, so I've been to protests in Atlanta, Georgia. Some of those protests I post right here on my YouTube channel. You will see it. I think that was the No Kings protest. I think it was in April 14 or 15 of this year. And coming up, I think there's a No Kings Protest 2.0, which is occurring October 18, right? Uh, let's see these dates right here. No Kings 2.0. I think it's October 18, 2025. Okay. So this is where millions of Americans are going to come out and protest the Donald Trump and the MAGA regime. You understand? They're trying their best, enacting all types of bills and all types of stuff to quiet people. And this is a nationwide protest that if you believe in your freedom of speech and you want to protect it, it's something that you could look into, okay? Because I'm definitely going to be there. So this will be on a Saturday, October 18, 2025. It's taking place in multiple locations across the United States, right? And I will be somewhere at one of those protests, letting my voice be heard because I do not agree with absolutely nothing that Donald Trump and the MAGA regime is currently doing in the United States of America, right? Because I know it's wrong. And if you could notice, there's a lot of politicians, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, who have not agreeing with a lot of things that Donald Trump and the MAGA regime is doing. You understand? So she finally is seeing the light, and hopefully she decide to get on the right side of history and not support this dangerous and radical organization created by a few racists. So if you notice, she's opposed with a lot of these MAGA agendas. For example, the Epstein file, she disagreed with them on that. She disagreed with them on the government shutdown and a lot of different things. And that's just one politician who's Republican. Um, and she did say that she's not blindly led by Donald Trump and the MAGA regime, which I completely agree with. You got to be able to think outside of the box. It doesn't matter how much you're in agreement with them. It doesn't matter that you're on the same team as them. Wrong is wrong. So you just have opposing ideology, different things with different people on the liberal side of things. You understand? But it doesn't mean that you should agree with things that Donald Trump and the MAGA regime is doing. They're extremely dangerous. They're causing a lot of different things. And some people will die. A lot of people have died already, and some more will pass away. Unfortunately, based on policies and rules and regulations that they've enacted. And this is causing a social disruption. If you look across American cities and you notice people are out, they should be at work or doing something they like to do. But instead of doing that, a lot of people are busy out and they're protesting. Okay, they could be spending time walking their dogs, taking their kids to school, or doing something more productive than that. But instead of that, they have to spend this time now to stand up for their rights as an American citizen. Okay, stand up for your rights as an American citizen and do not sit back and allow Donald Trump and this MAGA, fascist, racist, radical, ideological people take this country and destroy it. Right now, because of what they're doing, a lot of people are laid off, and I don't know if they will be back at work. When will they get the federal government back going so people could get served and be provided the basic things they need from the federal government system? You get what I'm saying? So yeah, the First Amendment it's your biggest thing that you should look at protected. You understand? You should protect this right that you have as an American citizen. And if you notice these days, they're passing a lot of laws and rules to push back on free speech. They don't want people to talk about the things they do unless you're speaking in favor of what they do. You understand? So that means to me, whether they're wrong or right, you should agree with what they say or do, which is impossible. You understand? Because there's no way any person in their right state of mind should agree with basic human rights as freedom of speech being taken away, being restricted, being suppressed, being bought and placed into the pockets of billionaires for profit. You understand? And newly development, we've seen where they have agreed with Qatar. Remember that $400 million plane that Trump received from Qatar? Well, now they said they have a deal with Qatar to host a military base, Air Force, to host Qatar's Air Force in Idaho to train their F-15 fighter jet pilots. Okay, so that's new development that's just recently happening. I just saw that run across my screen, and I'll be looking into it some more and be talking about it some more. So we do know that in America, there is a lot of foreign nationals who are stationed or work in the United States for training, military training and stuff like that. But and we also know that the United States has a lot of military bases in different parts of the world: Japan, Germany, South Korea, Panama, whatever. Okay, a lot of military bases, even Cuba. U.S. has Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, right? So the U.S. hosting a Qatar as a separate sovereign entity in the United States. I don't know that it's a good idea. You understand what I'm saying? But like I said, if the U.S. has military bases in different parts of the world, is it okay for other countries to have military bases in the United States? And that's up to the people of the United States of America, okay? But a lot of people have no idea what's happening and that it is happening, right? Of course, it's probably for profit, but the public has a different taste when it comes to the United States and military occupation of other countries across the globe, occupying the U.S. with military bases and hosting them to train their fighter pilots and stuff like that. So that's a mixed thing. It's a lot of mixed feelings and mixed emotions that will come out of that. But I don't see it. It's not going to end well with the American public, okay? Because it's something that's never been done before, right? I don't know that there's another country in the world that has a military base in America, okay? So that's something new. And of course, it happened right after uh, Donald Trump received a $400 million payment from Qatar. You get what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things that the public is looking at, and there's a lot of questions to be answered, okay? Because these guys, they just go ahead and make deals. Remember, they want the power to answer to nobody, to just do whatever they want, whenever they feel like it, whenever they want to do it. That's where the MAGA regime is headed. They don't want nobody to say anything to them. They cut deals and then tell the public later. They just do stuff without congressional approval, and they have the support in some areas from the Supreme Court. So that's something important that you got to look at, right? They'll just go out and strike a deal with anybody about anything as long as it fits the MAGA regime. It doesn't necessarily have to fit the needs of the American public. As long as it fits the needs of the MAGA regime, this is how MAGA operates. And they've been doing it since they got in office 2025, January. So my question to you guys out there is this. Are you going to vote in this midterm elections? And I think you should, right? It's a good idea that you prepare to vote in this midterm election. Get your vote in, know how to vote, where to vote, all this other stuff. And I strongly suggest you do, because you're playing with fire. You're playing with fire right now by doing nothing, by sitting back, chilling, relaxing, and just having a good time, getting off work, going home, and think it's just another day in the park. You're playing with dangerous fire. So if you're an American, right, and you have the right to vote, strongly suggest that you look at the midterms, okay, and let your voices be heard, not just by protesting in Chicago on the streets, but also by protesting with your vote at the polls, okay? So that's coming up pretty soon. So you look out for it. And like I said, the next protest is October 18 on a Saturday, and that's the No Kings Protest 2.0. It's going to be a nationwide, possibly worldwide, across the globe. A lot of people will be protesting. And if you notice, people have protested Donald Trump in Scotland. They've protested him in England. There's a lot of protests in parts of Australia. People have protested Donald Trump in the Caribbean. In Asia, they're protesting him. So the protests, they don't stop, okay? Because the rest of the world, and especially those who had a good relationship with the United States, they realize the relationship they have is now completely destroyed. You understand? And that to talk about the tariffs and all this other stuff. And that's for a whole different video. You understand? So we're running into 13 minutes. And like I said, remember to go vote in the midterms, right? Because you're playing with fire with this Trump regime and these MAGAs. It's not just as simple as me sitting here making videos. For those who've been watching my channel for a while, I'm pretty sure you never see me talk about politics, but this time it is necessary to speak about these things because I need people to act. You need to act. You need to vote. You need to do something about what's happening. Don't sit there and say, it's not your problem. It has nothing to do with you. You understand? Because if you look at a basic thing as free speech, where you can no longer say certain things, you understand? It's becoming extremely dangerous. Okay? So we're going to wrap it up here and we'll do another live probably sometime today or tomorrow. And we're going to cover a different topic. But this video was specifically for the protests that's going on in Chicago, and it's going to happen in Portland, Oregon pretty soon. Clashes between the MAGA regime, ICE officers, and of course the military that Donald Trump and the MAGA regime has unleashed on the American public indiscriminately, blue states specifically targeted in this matter. Okay, so catch me in the next video. It's Big Muscle. Stay tuned.